YouTube, it is your girl Alicia. Welcome. Today it is the 2-year and 6-month hair lockiversary, and officially it's been 6 years and 9 months since I did the big chop itself, and we're at 2 years and 6 months since starting the locks after the big chop. So in today's video we're going to be going through the lock length update along with the ponytail test and of course some hair changes. Before we dive in, just 2 quick notes. First of all, in the previous videos you've seen that there was a pink measuring tape used. This time I'm going to be using a purple measuring tape. It's identical to the one that was used before. They came in the package together. However, through moving I seem to have lost that other one, but this is the same one. They're identical in their measurements, so that's the first note. And the second note is I'm going to try to wear this shirt every time I do a hair update, because that way it might be easier for you to see the changes taking place as the hair continues to grow. Alright, so let's begin. This lock length update is going to be a 4-month update since the last video was 4 months ago. And we're going to go through the same process as before. We're going to look at the middle, the temples, and the back. Alright, so let's start with the middle. And in the previous video I was using inches but at times refer to it as centimeters. That was my bad. Just know I'm using inches for these measurements. If I slip up and say centimeters by accident, you know that it's inches. So taking a look at the middle, and right now you can see my hair is kind of crinkled. I did a braid out about a week ago, and what I'm going to do when measuring is I'm going to straighten out the hair as much as I can. So you know, that might actually mean that the hair is a little bit longer than stated, but it's not a significant amount. Alright, so middle lock at the front, taking the measuring tape, starting at the root, pulling it all the way down. And where are we at? Okay, in the previous video that measured 2 years and 2 months, the length was 8 inches, and prior to that it was 7 inches. And right now it's 8.7 inches. So that means that over the period of 4 months my hair has grown 0.7 inches, at least in the middle. Alright, now let's look at the left, taking the one that's right by the temple, and once again measuring that one. Okay, so placing it at the root. So in the last video it was 8 inches, and prior to that it was 6.5 inches. And just carrying it down and straightening it as much as I can. We have that it's as well about 8.7 inches too. So taking the right side now, right by the temple. Okay, tip at the root, taking it down to the tip and all the way down. Okay. Alright. Wow, this one is at 9 inches. Previously it was at 7.5, and before that it was 6. So I'm just going to double do that again because I'm kind of in shock that it's grown that much. Okay, let's do that one more time and take it down. Okay. And it lands at, no, that's correct, at 9 inches. So that's another thing that's being noticed, is that the hair grows quicker at different parts of my head, so that's pretty interesting. As with you probably notice with your hair growth that it's growing in different areas faster and slower in others. Alright, now taking the left back lock, the one that's closest to the nape of my neck, and this is one of the 2-headed dragons. I'm going to take it down to the end of the longest tail. And take it down. And it ends at 8 inches. Previous to this it was 7 inches, and prior to that that was 5.5 inches. So I'm pretty astounded that I'm noticing 1 inch gained within 4 months. It's pretty impressive. Now taking the back right lock, taking the end, okay, all the way down, and we have it at 7.8, and prior it was 7 inches, and before that it was 5.5 inches. So we are noticing some gain. Now, before going into the ponytail test, I just want to show you what the hair looks like just all around, because it's longer in some areas and just the way that it's falling. Okay, so this is the front, this is the left, going to the right, and then taking it to the back. So come a long way since the big chop and since first starting locks. Alright, so now time for the ponytail test. In the last video we made the great accomplishment of reaching a ponytail status, so we're just going to see how much longer it's gotten. Handy dandy makeshift scrunchie, doubling it up, and now just taking my hair back. Alright, and let's see how full of a ponytail this is. Okay, and so I'm twisting it twice. Alright, so I'll show you what it looks like turning it around. I'm still pretty shocked that it fits in a ponytail, to be honest with you. Alright, so there's the length update and ponytail test, and now we're going to talk about some of the changes that I've noticed in the past 4 months. First off, it has been a little over 1 month since my first interlock appointment, and at that appointment what had happened is instead of me retwisting my hair with gel, washing my hair, making sure the roots are wet, and getting some gel and applying it to the root and twisting it around and around and giving up about a day to do that, I decided to see a loctician, and she interlocked my hair. It took less than an hour, and what she did was she took each strand of hair and pulled it through the root, and she did that 4 times in 4 different directions, essentially knotting the hair at the root. And so what I've really liked about this so far is that I've noticed a difference with working out. I try to work out 6 days a week. As mentioned before, you know, for healthy hair you have to have a healthy inside, so trying to establish that routine. And so my head sweats as a result of working out, you know, getting the blood flowing and releasing those nutrients, getting rid of those toxins. When I was retwisting my hair myself and just using the gel, I noticed that it would untangle quite easily at the root, and one of the things I noticed from that is I wouldn't really be sure what was true hair growth when I was retwisting my hair, because when it's untangled, that means that it wasn't all the hair that was new growth from the previous locking session. Whereas when I got my hair interlocked this time, it's knotted at the area of the most previous new growth. So now I know that when my hair grows out more, that's actual new growth. It's not new growth from prior to the interlocking session. So I like that I know how much new growth I do have, and I like that it stays pretty much the same throughout this month. It stays pretty neat. I'm really liking that, because when I would retwist my hair, I figured, okay, it's going to look neat for this week or 2, but once I wash it, the gel is gone and my roots are going to look puffy. Not as puffy as they did during the first year of having locks, but they're still going to look puffy and they won't look as manicured, is the word that I was looking for. Secondly, I have ditched my hair cap. This has been a huge friend of mine. I've actually had some replacements because after washing it, it loses its spring and it doesn't hold on as tight. But I've been using this with so much commitment for over 6 years and 9 months. Since the big chop, I've been very diligent about covering my hair to prevent breakage, prevent breakage when I was a loose natural. My goal as a loose natural was to conserve my hair as much as I could, protect it as much as I could, so that all the new growth I had was mine, that I wouldn't lose it. And of course you would lose some from combing your hair, that's a given, but try to hold on to as much as I could. And so I tried to use this to protect my hair in addition to using protective styles. After beginning the locking process, I wore the hair cap to allow for healthy friction when tossing and turning in bed. In a previous video I mentioned that when retwisting my hair, there were parts of the roots that were a lot more tangled and mangled, and that's because that tends to be the side that I lie on and I move around the most. So it's interesting, you learn a lot about yourself just from how your hair kind of turns out. And another reason with Locs to wear this was to prevent lint from getting into the locks. Now, since for the past month and a little bit more, I've kind of ditched the hair cap because, first of all, I can't really fit the hair under it unless I put my hair, pile it up, and try to put it on top of my head, because I don't like wearing ponytails and all that stuff. It feels very restrictive and it feels very tight when sleeping, and then put it around. Now this is very loose, so it's not realistic, but at the bottom there would always be a part of the hair cap that would be rising up, and it would end up falling off during the night. So what I do is I take a scrunchie and then I try to tie the bottom end so that it would kind of keep my hair contained, but still by the end of the night it would fall off. And I was looking into getting a product, I think it's called the Locs, because it's long enough so it protects your hair, and it's long enough that you don't have to keep replacing it over and over again. But then when I first looked into it, the price was just out of my budget, and it's from the United States, so with shipping it's super expensive to come to Canada. I mean, come on, aren't we all one? But anyway, so I've ditched the hair cap, and I have noticed some consequences of that, such as lint. Lint is becoming a problem now. Before I thought I could escape it, but I'm noticing that at the ends of the locks, you can't really see it here, but at the ends of the locks there's some lint, and you'll see it from, for example, I have a really colorful scarf, and so there'll be pieces of thread of different colors that get tied up into the lock. So lint is starting to become a problem as well as the hair gets longer. Next on the list is I have noticed that the ends are becoming thin. And what I mean by that is I'll have a strand of hair, and I've actually pulled a lot of these ends off, but I feel like this is a good example. So I'll have my strand of hair, and then the end of the lock is pretty strong, but then there's a section before it connects to the rest of the lock that is kind of meshy, and it feels like it feels like a weak point, and that's where it's going to break off. So I've been noticing this in some of the locks, and I'm just kind of wondering why that is, because didn't really tie the hair up in the past and don't know what's going on with that. But for some of the strands it was getting so bad, like you could see that it was about to rip off, that I ended up just ripping it off, and I've done that to at least 10 of the locks around, and that could actually take away from the true length gained, because sometimes the pieces ripped off would be about that long. So, and in a previous video I had mentioned that there would be balls of hair at the end of the lock that I would rip off, and it was more for just appearances, and because it did look different from the lock. It was the end of the lock, but I didn't mind ripping it off. But this is a different problem now. This is after the lock has completed the locking process. The final thing that I've noticed was also noticed in the previous video, so it's a continuing concern, and it is thinning at the roots. And this is a really big reason why I went to see the loctician, because with locks, you have a goal in mind. You want to nurture your hair, you want it to grow, and if it's thinning out, a fear is that the lock will become so thin that it will just break off. So I've been noticing a lot of locks within the middle section of the head have really thin roots, and I've combined a lot of the locks because of that. I should have kept track, but I've combined at least 8 locks, so made them together 4, and you'll notice that it was done quite late after the locks began, because the root where the locks are joined now is really short. So this is an example of a combined lock. This was actually combined before I saw the loctician, and then she ended up interlocking the root, so it's more stable now. And so this is the part that was combined, but these were the locks prior, and the locks were pretty thick before, but then towards the root they were thinning out. So I highly believe that this is related to poor nutrition last year and even before that, because your hair is a reflection of your internal state. And so I think that the reason I'm noticing this thinning is related to poor nutrition in the past, especially being a student and the stress. And another thing with the stress of being a student sometimes is I'll like play in my hair, and I might fiddle with my hair and end up pulling hair out of locks, and that also leads to thinning too. So I'm hoping that my loctician can help me with that at the next session within the next few months. Thank you so much for watching the latest hair update. The next one will take place at the 3rd year mark, which will be in May of 2015, and from what I've been reading and hearing, the 3rd year mark is when your hair just makes this pivotal jump and it just grows tremendously. You notice the speed of which its growth really exponentiates. So looking forward to that, and let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm excited to hear about your hair journey too, from beginning to where you are now. It's really exciting, and thank you so much for watching and spending your time with me. Have a wonderful week. Bye.